Repulsor blast. Repulsor blast. Unibeam. Unibeam. Repulsor blast. Repulsor blast. Unibeam. Unibeam. I thought to myself, you know what? I ain't gonna do the homie like that. I ain't gonna do him like that. Okay, alright. I ain't gonna do him like that. Okay, I kind of did. I kind of got to get it out there. I ain't gonna do him like that. For this video, I'm gonna call this gentleman No Clue Ray. No Clue Ray Fitness. No Clue Ray. I asked him a simple question on the No 304 show. I asked him a question. I said, hey man, well, okay, I didn't ask it like this. I started off like this. I said, I did that. I did, and I'm sorry. Okay? And I said, hey, listen, man. I need you to explain why you picked Canelo, because you said Canelo was going to be Bud. This is what you said, so I need you to I need you to answer that question. Oh, man, I don't care nothing about that. I don't care about that. Wait a minute now. No Clue Ray, you don't care about that. Okay, you don't care about that now? Because you damn sure cared when you told me, and you asked me a question, you said, so you don't respect weight classes? You don't respect weight classes? Yeah, I do. But I said in this situation, Bud Crawford is different. He's different. And if you're going to tell me, okay, if you're going to tell me that this flat-footed fighter in Canelo Alvarez, who got 2 weapons in his arsenal, only 2. He can counterpunch and he can throw body shot. Well, Bud Crawford got a lot of arsenals. Bud Crawford got an A plan, a B plan, a C plan, a D plan. Canelo, he's only got plan A. And if you're going to tell me, okay, that Canelo, who's only got one plan to beat you, only one way he can beat you, right? If you're going to tell me that if he's going to win that fight, I need you to explain why. Okay? And I figure, and now honestly now I'm being honest about this. I was asking him from a point of, okay, this guy, he's trained some world-class athletes, some of the best in the world. He's trained them. And I'm sure that he's seen a lot of sparring. So in my mind, I deduced, okay, well, maybe there's something that he knows that I don't know. And I was willing to sit and listen to his reason and really be educated. Okay? Like, I was legit ready for him to just explain, because he's got a lot of knowledge on a lot of different things. And so I was willing to sit there and be educated, because I actually really wasn't going to debate him. I wanted to hear his reason why. Like, why did he pick Canelo? Like, what about Canelo, with all the years of experience that you have, that would just make you pick him? Like, BFTV, he explained it. He explained it perfectly. When I asked, BFTV said, well, Bud gonna get knocked out. Why? I mean, Bud is moving up 3 weight classes, okay? And BFTV's, by his own admission, he said, you know what? Bud has never fought anybody. He never fought nobody in the ring that size. And I said, that's a fair point, okay? I get that. And, and my rebuttal, basically was, hey, Bud spar bigger men all the time. BFTV was like, yeah, but see, sparring and fighting ain't the same. And I understood where BFTV was coming from, okay? And I wasn't trying to, change his opinion or change his view, okay? I wasn't trying to do that. But also, why I respected BFTV a whole lot more is because after the fight happened, BFTV, though him not being a Bud fan, he gave Bud his respect. He said, listen, man, Bud did it, okay? Bud did it. And all I asked the man is, why? And so when he started getting a little disrespectful, a little bit, I started getting disrespectful. I said, well, how you going to explain this? How are you going to explain this, No Clue Ray? No, I didn't call him No Clue Ray, but I'm calling him that now, because he had no clue how to pick this fight. No clue. If you're telling me that on the assumption that Canelo's bigger, because the only thing you would admit to is the weight class. If you're telling me that just because Canelo is bigger, okay, I can't respect, and then I can respect about that. And you probably don't care because you said you don't care. Okay? But however, you can't get upset. You can't put an opinion out on a public platform, right? Especially boxing, where dudes go back and forth in boxing all the time. You can't put that opinion out there and then don't expect dudes to actually ask you and come at you when what you said didn't work. You can't get upset about it. Like, what? It's a public platform. If you put that in the privacy of your own house and somehow, somebody told me what you said, okay, now you have a right to be mad because you didn't put it out there publicly. But this is a public platform. You put that information out there publicly. You put it out there. And I responded and I asked you a question. Now, the little bit of disrespect, I ain't really care too much about it, but hey, I'm making a video to No Clue Ray. Or to whoever listening. Ain't to No Clue Ray. It's to whoever listening. Okay? And I was like, damn. Okay, so his response was just because Canelo's a bigger guy. And yes, I do respect the weight classes, but when one person is terribly, unskilled, and the other person is very skilled, and the skilled person is moving up in weight. Okay, when you got one person here who got one skill, and you got another person who got about 10 to 15 different skills that help them win the fight, and when that person with the skill set move up, okay, when that person with the skill set move up in weight, I'm thinking the person with no skills, they ass in trouble. They ass in trouble. And also the information that I knew about Bud. Okay, because see, I've been following Bud since Bud was like, 15, 16 years old. When Bud was he was still in the damn amateurs, man. I've been following Terence Crawford a long time. And I know, and I know for a fact, like Bud used to spar bigger men. I knew this. So with that information, I knew, and I couldn't get it out because it kept cutting me off. Okay? I knew that Terence Crawford wouldn't have a problem with Canelo's power because he's faced more bigger and powerful people. He's faced them in sparring. And yes, I know sparring and a fight are two different things. But when you're talking about Bud Crawford, those sparring sessions, they're intense. They're intense. I'm talking about like Bud and these bigger fighters are going out to they're going out full out war. Like they're legit going on a full, war. That's what they're doing. Okay, so I don't want to hear, Bud ain't used to bigger men. Yeah, he is. Hell, Bud, he sparred a couple of heavyweights. If you want to keep it 100, Bud done sparred some heavyweights. Now, I ain't going to say Bud was walking them guys down, but Bud was taking shots, man. He was taking a lot of shots. He was sparring this one heavyweight guy, man. And I'm sitting there like, damn, this dude going to hurt Bud. Nah, Bud stood in there like the dog he is. He stood in there and held his ground against a much bigger dude than him, man. Now, they were just boxing. I think if Bud was allowed to wrestle or do some of the other things that he know, Bud probably would have beat this guy. But see, in just boxing, the bigger guy, Bud was hitting the guy to the body. Now, he was hurting the guy to the body. He couldn't hurt him to the head. Okay, this is an old sparring footage of Bud, very old. But, he's had these kind of sessions with heavyweights. So, I know if Bud ended up taking punishment from a heavyweight, y'all thought Canelo was going to do something to him? And everybody kept thinking that Canelo had all this damn power. Okay, yes, he does have power. Okay, he does have power. Yes, Canelo has one of the most underrated body attacks in the sport of boxing. You got no argument there. But I do know that Bud has been in there with people who hit much harder than Canelo. And that's where I made my assertion at. That's where I made my assessment at. I made my assessment because Bud is a much skillful fighter. Okay, very skillful, much more than Canelo. And you take the skillful fighter, you move him up. Okay, yeah, people talked about the movement. And then I said, well, Bud walks around at about 175 pounds. That's his walking around weight. In between fights, Bud walks around heavy. I said that too. So there's a lot of things that I knew about Bud. And so with that, I kind of knew. Now, I'll be honest with y'all. Before Errol Spence got thrown from a car, okay, I felt like Spence could have beat Bud. I thought that, okay? And, when Spence and Bud fought, Bud knocked out Errol, okay? I still believe that Errol probably would have made it the distance had he not got thrown from the car, okay? And me knowing so much about Bud, but Errol was just this guy that could break a guy down. And, I seen Errol breaking dudes down that we thought could never be broken down. I saw Errol breaking them down. And it's like, okay, well, damn, this dude Errol, like, he nice. He nice. But that's the only fight where I thought Bud Crawford could actually lose the fight. All the other fights, I'm not picking against him. I'm not picking against Bud. Bud too good. I'm not picking against him. I'm not going to pick against him because he has proved time and time again that he's on another level. These other guys, they just in the ring with him. And Bud is making it look easy. And everybody keeps saying his opponents ain't nothing. Well, it's like he's making it easy. He's making it look easy. And honestly, I think Bud could have damn near literally not got touched by Canelo. He stood in the pocket with the man. Like, Bud purposely ate a couple of shots from Canelo. Now, some of those shots weren't purpose. Canelo landed those shots. But some shots, like, Bud purposely stood there, ate a shot from Canelo, and looked at him and started sticking his tongue out. Like, what the hell? Who does that? Like, Bud crazy. Now, I do agree with some of these people assessments of Bud's mental state. Like, Bud enjoys hurting people. Yeah, he do. Bud like hurting people, man. It's almost like, man, and I don't know how I can explain it. It's like he's sitting there, and when he's watching a fight, man, and when he was talking about how he's watching Canelo, how he was really watching Canelo, you can see, like, that look. And they said Bud got a dead look. Yeah, I agree with that assessment. He had this look, man, like, I can hurt this dude. And there were points in the fight, Bud was literally trying to hurt. Man, when he spent Canelo's head around, and Canelo turned around and looked back at him like, oh, damn, man, what's up with that? Like, he hit Canelo so hard, he turned Canelo's whole head almost to the back of his damn neck. Canelo ass turned around and was like, yo, what the hell was that? I'm talking about Bud hit this man hard as hell. But, you know, for no clue, Ray, that's all I was asking. Like, dude, okay, explain, man. And see, and I figured it out. I figured it out with no clue, Ray. I figured out the problem with this guy. Here's his problem, okay? He don't like to admit when he's wrong. Okay? He don't like to admit when he's wrong. And I think that's the problem with him. He don't like to admit when he's wrong. And unfortunately, that's bad because you're on a platform and you got dudes who debate boxing all the time, and debate for the LDBC, that's normal, that's natural. But you don't like to admit when you're wrong. And unfortunately, it's crazy because I didn't think you ever pick up on that you and 78, y'all talking about the same thing. But it's like you kept cutting them off and you wouldn't listen. And it's like you wasn't listening so bad that you couldn't even hear that y'all was saying the same thing. Y'all speaking the same language. Like, it started getting crazy. And I'll say this, and I'm gonna let it go. When, the woman, Destiny Black, was on the show, and by the way, I said, hey, no need to call the man a coon. Ain't no need to call the man that. Like, what do you call him? Like, I was like, yo, ain't no need to name call. Ain't no need to name call. There's no need to name call. And I disagree with that. I disagree with her calling you that, because she shouldn't have, because she don't know you. She don't know your fight. She don't know where you come from. She don't know your story. I listened to your story 1,000 times, and I can tell you, Blu-ray, no, he not. I mean, the man has a different opinion. Okay, I disagree with his views on Charlie Kirk, but I'm not, I know for a fact he ain't a raccoon. I know that. Okay? And saying that's disrespectful on all levels. But I agreed with both her and BFTV, because when they was looking up that information, and I think it was stats on deaths. They was looking that up, and I said, you know what? I wonder if they're right. So I looked it up, and you know what? They were right. They were spot on. And see, I don't know what you were looking at. I don't know what you were actually looking at. But it's like you couldn't conceive. Like, you couldn't say, hey, I'm wrong. See, there's no crime. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's something wrong when you can't admit when you're wrong. And I think that's the whole story. There's no crime in being wrong. It's just a crime when you can't admit when you're wrong. When you're wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with being wrong. People are wrong all the time. It's a debate. We debate. That's all we do is debate. All we do is argue. Okay, we debate and argue all day long. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. But they were right. They had you dead to rights. They had you dead to rights, and they were right. The stats were there. The stats were there. I pulled them up on my computer as well, and what they were saying, it was pretty accurate. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. No clue, Ray. It is what it is. You can't admit when you're wrong, and you don't like to be wrong. And that's the reason why when I actually asked you, I physically asked you, okay, hey, you got this wrong. Okay, why? Why? Oh, I don't care about that because you don't want to be wrong. You think you're always right. And that's fine. But you're going to learn in a small world, okay? In a small world, you're not going to always be right. You're going to be wrong. And sometimes, you know, being mature enough to admit when you're wrong is a sign of strength. That's a sign of strength. But when you're wrong and then you call somebody N-word and then you say, thank you. Okay. You can't deal with me.
Did you hear what happened to you yesterday?
Of course. I tried to avoid it. I tried to avoid it. That's why I ain't come. I tried to avoid it. Yeah, I tried to avoid it, but that's okay. That's okay. They only meet 4 times a year. I'm good. Yeah. Anyway, y'all. Back to what I was saying. It ain't no harm in being wrong. Ain't no harm in being wrong. And being wrong don't make you weak. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of strength when you can admit when you're wrong. Sorry, y'all. I'm fast. Damn, they're jogging. I'm jogging. Trying to get to my destination. But anyway, y'all. It is what it is.